Alrighty, welcome back everyone. It is LaughNgamez here. I'm back, and it is time for another Starcraft 2 1 vs 1 replay cast. We have got ourselves what is going to be a good Terran versus Protoss. No, I'll go as far as saying a great Terran versus Protoss, because the last game that I cast was between these two, and it was definitely great. So I figured, why not do it again? As we have got ourselves in the top left, one of the top Korean Terrans. Probably the second best at the minute, if I had to say. It's Cure. Yeah, I think that's a fair assumption. It probably goes Maru, Cure. That's about it as far as who's active at the minute. And then in the bottom right, we've got ShoWTimE Demir. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. The Wall, anyway. The consistent foreign Protoss player, who's just darn exciting to watch. Always great to watch. I don't think you ever see ShoWTimE really do a bad game. Sometimes he'll have really close matches, and that makes him an exciting player to watch. And anyway, it's going to be a great TvP. The last one was on a larger map. This is also a larger map from the Team Liquid map contest, number 15. It's Fountainhead, which is a simple map name, but a good one, I think. A Fountainhead as a map name. Does this take place on the head of a fountain? I don't know. Is there any fountains to be seen? I do not know. But yeah, anyway, TvP, always exciting to watch. Call me a little bit selfish for casting this one. Being on a larger map, it generally means it's probably going to go longer, which might not be considered to be good for the Terran, but when it's someone like Cure taking on someone who's defensive like ShoWTimE, you just gotta watch it. I'm actually not sure what the rush distance is on this map. It doesn't actually look that far, so pushes could definitely play out, but then there is lots of expansions. Oh, being like, what, that 8 bases on either side, which is pretty hefty for a map these days. So yeah, we'll take a look. We'll see how this game is going to develop between these two players as we pull up that production tab. But ladies and gentlemen, if you do enjoy these casts, after these intermittent casts, I'll say, make sure to go ahead and hit that like button. If we can hit 15 likes on this video for the Team Liquid map contest number 15, that would be truly amazing. And of course, if you're new to the channel, you decided to watch this random StarCraft replay on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe. Or at least consider it at the end of the video. Now we take a look here. We've got Cure. Gonna be going for a triple barracks play. I'm gonna try not to be too presumptuous, as I honestly will admit, I haven't been casting or playing as much StarCraft as I used to, and so that is a thing that casters have to pay attention to. Like, if you're not 100% up on the game knowledge, you don't want to be that guy who's always saying, oh, do this, when really that was out of the meta a few months ago or whatever. But yeah, anyway. ShoWTimE, of course, just opening up, scouting out with his Adept and such. Getting information is always a vital part of StarCraft 2, and that's why this Adept will be microed as long as ShoWTimE can possibly get any scouting out of it, or even just keeping his opponent on his toes a little bit. We see Cure has got some Marines at his natural, got some now pooling up in his main base. That is, of course, in order to prevent an Oracle. And ShoWTimE still scouting out. Hasn't seen anything that is indicative of, say, really either direction for tech. He hasn't seen a factory. The lack of anything probably honestly, yeah, ShoWTimE's quite in the dark. I was going to say that it could lean towards maybe being like, oh yeah, you're probably 3-racking it or something, but there could easily be a third command center up that ShoWTimE doesn't know about. There could easily be a factory. Hell, Cure could be proxying a Thor right now. That's very much not the case, but ShoWTimE really is in the dark right now. He's got an observer on the way, and he's got a sentry that's done. It has yet to have the energy for hallucination just yet, though. Which would then, of course, give a lot more information for ShoWTimE. We are only 4 minutes into the game, but getting information is quite important for ShoWTimE, and I think he just got some there. Seeing this bio force, he's got this Adept still out on the map, but yeah, Cure's going to be moving out now with his bio push off the back of this 3-racks. He's going to have combat shield, stim pack, and he's going to be looking to give ShoWTimE a swift punch in the jaw. And now the question is going to remain whether ShoWTimE will drop like a sack of potatoes, or whether he'll deflect it, like sometimes happens with these bio pushes. They are sometimes just deflected, and you're like, why did the Terran do that again? Yeah, we'll see. I mean, this is quite a lethal push. There's no battery at the third for ShoWTimE. He does have Blink Stalkers, which he's very good with. The Marines are stimming on in right now. Gonna try and catch these Stalkers right away. There's not even a single shield battery done for ShoWTimE yet. Kier's gonna target down the pylon. The Robo's now unpowered. No Immortal coming on out. Probes do have to be pulled. Kier's really committing on in here. He's gonna get some damage done, but with such a commitment, he was not actually able to win the army fight there. That kind of put his army in a precarious position, taking extra hits and such. He does end up getting 6 probes, trades out some of his army though, catches the sentries as ShoWTimE, delays the Immortal. All in all, I believe that was probably worth it for Kier. We'll see how well ShoWTimE's gonna counter this. Interestingly enough, Kier had some reinforcements out on the map, so he's making the decision, instead of trying to get him home, which they probably wouldn't have made it due to these Stalkers, he's gonna pool them and wait for an opportunity to stim on in. Probably once he sees the Stalkers out on the map, we'll think, okay, maybe your third's undefended. Now's the time to go in, but Big Daddy Immortal's waiting there. And I think an Immortal, if microed decently, will definitely beat 2 Marauders and 2 Marines. In goes ShoWTimE now. Gonna poke on in with these Stalkers, start hitting that bunker. Kier needs to repair this. He's taken his sweet time. Doesn't repair, actually just elects to salvage the bunker, interestingly enough. I guess that's a conscious choice he made, realizing that this isn't actually a push from ShoWTimE, so he'll be able to bully the Protoss away. And the bunker's not too important. Now Kier uses that bio that was out on the map, catches himself a Stalker. That was a great usage there instead of committing it to the third. I kind of lost sight of that for a second there. Unfortunately for Kier, he didn't have Concussive Shell finished yet. Fortunately for ShoWTimE, he didn't. Goes both ways. Otherwise, those Stalkers could have all been dead. Now we take a look here. Kier's out on the map with his bio underneath that observer, so ShoWTimE sees it. He's actually just going to trade with these Stalkers, retreat to the shield battery, regenerate some of their shields, and then he can probably poke again. So Kier's going to have to back off. Really needs medivacs with this army, but interestingly enough here, this is quite odd by Kier. He elects to go for 2 Vikings. I don't know why this is. This is actually really, really interesting to talk about. You might say, okay, is he that afraid of Colossus from ShoWTimE? ShoWTimE is a guy who constantly makes those, but are these just going to be to shut down Warp Prisms? And I think that's going to be the case, so beautiful call by Kier. This is not something a lot of Terrans do, and look at this. Kier must have caught wind of this prism because he is looking for it with his Vikings, and he does find it. ShoWTimE, I think, has to recall very quick on the draw there. Does recall the Warp Prism, doesn't take too much damage there. If ShoWTimE was even one more volley down, I think that prism may have died, or it would have been darn close. So ShoWTimE breathing a sigh of relief, keeping that prism alive. Quick reaction there. All in all, beautiful call by Kier to produce those 2 Vikings, even though it temporarily halted his medivac production. And now the game's just going to continue on. We see the Protoss getting his +1 on the way. Kier's got his +1 done. He's heading into his +1-1. This observer for ShoWTimE, very key, giving him vision on this Terran army. Kier scans it though, removes that from the equation, and now all of a sudden we're looking at Kier getting a bit of a nasty push towards ShoWTimE. ShoWTimE, what he's really got going for himself right now is a large amount of charge lots, and in about 10 seconds he's going to have himself Psionic Storm. ShoWTimE also going for some counter harassment, but Kier seems to be playing quite proper with his defense this game between those 2 Vikings and just deflecting that Zealot run by. No SCVs died this game. Alright, ShoWTimE is now going to start transitioning into that Colossus and or Disruptor tech. In the last game we cast, it was all about the Disruptors, but then Colossus are a staple in the Protoss diet. You could akin Colossus to bread. Bread, nothing magical on its own, or you can't eat just bread, I'll say. That's the best thing. I mean, you really can if you want to. I don't know what you gamers are eating, but if you really want to, good, but probably not advised. Just like if ShoWTimE just made Colossus, so he's probably going to get in Disruptors. He's already got Psystorm in the form of High Templar. ShoWTimE is a guy who does like his Prism High Templar drops. We'll see if he's going to be able to make that play, because Kier's going into Ghosts, and we've seen a lot of Protoss players just lose their Prism. I'm failing to snap my fingers there. But just like that, basically. Now we've got 2 Colossus on the way for ShoWTimE. The Colossus will be arriving at a pretty decent time based on the fact that there isn't a large Viking count for Kier just yet. High Templar at the top of this ramp drops the Psystorm. Deflecting this attack from Kier should be rather doable from ShoWTimE. Rather easy, as a matter of fact, pushing away the small Bioforce. Kier's microing it as well as he can, but as far as any real danger from ShoWTimE, I wouldn't say that's too high. He is being forced to warp in more Zealots, though. Here's a Colossus popping out there. That should definitely help. And ShoWTimE, not being too distracted, is keeping the majority of his army down here. Kier's continuously skirmishing with his bajillion Terran APM, although ShoWTimE actually with higher APM on average. Not that that matters if you've watched any amount of Starcraft 2. Definitely not about the biggest number. It's about how you use it. It's not the size that matters. Now we take a look. Kier coming on in with quite a nasty looking army. We'll see if ShoWTimE split his forces appropriately, because his 4th base is going to be in trouble. In go a ton of ghosts, looking for EMPs. First the shield battery, then the majority of the Protoss force. Now can Kier land EMPs on the High Templar as they drop? Yes, he can. One High Templar makes it out, drops its 2 Psystorms, but they really land just mediocrity. ShoWTimE even forced to pull the rest of his army down to the bottom left, but predictably, Kier now coming back on in. There is 1 High Templar here. It's not going to Psystorm. Kier actually just electing to get that gateway. A Colossus pops on out. We've got a High Templar and a Colossus holding down the fort. Kier's going to dive on in. Is there going to be a battery overcharge by ShoWTimE? No need. That Colossus does stay alive, so that's a big sigh of relief. That would have been a great pickoff for Kier. ShoWTimE, just to survive right now, is really being put under a lot of pressure. He does have his 4th base up. Kier's now just landing his own, so it's not like Kier's got a huge economic advantage. He still feels pressure to get something done. Both players, though, now are working out with maxed out armies. Kier's ahead in the upgrades, but ShoWTimE's trying to catch on up. He's chrono boosting his forges, so that gap is going to narrow there. He's also getting disruptors, which, in case you didn't know, don't give a hoot about Terran armor upgrades. Okay, so Kier's got his 4th base at this location. It's quite a ways from ShoWTimE's 4th, so for either player to push out, it's not going to be easy, and we are seeing the large map effect. No amount of Liberators yet from Kier. He's just relying on Vikings and Goats. As the disruptor count rises, his opinion on that may change, or he'll just try and start splitting up more, that kind of stuff. Kier's army is quite significant right now, though, with Ghosts with 2-2 upgrades compared to ShoWTimE, who just finished up his 2-1. Terran's going to go up the ramp now, catching ShoWTimE completely out of position. ShoWTimE did not expect a move out like this by the Terran, who's now getting at his natural base. The Vikings are positioning themselves, trying to catch any of the 4 Colossus. Stalkers are going to blink, try and save the Colossus. That could be quite important if even 1 or 2 stays alive during the duration of this fight. But as this is going on, the front force of ShoWTimE is melting. His buffer's going away. He's tossing out Disruption Novas, which are buying him some time. There are Zealots now coming down towards the natural. Looks like a single Viking remains, putting in some hate on the Colossus. By gosh, I think it was just 1 or 2 Vikings there that really cleaned up a couple of the Colossus. ShoWTimE does hold on, though, but boy, oh boy, was his army ever reset. So we see ShoWTimE. He's warps in High Templar because he knows that they can make Archons. He knows that it's only about 20 seconds after warping in that a High Templar has got its lethal Psystorm. He says, I need army now, though. Warping in a few more Archons, but then he's still got plenty of High Templar. We'll see if he's going to be making any more disruptors. But did he lose his Robos? Yeah, ShoWTimE actually lost his Robos in that fight. I didn't point that out. That's why we see the Protoss player building 3 Robos, which is nuts. But great move by Kier, not actually having to worry about any more disruptors or Colossus for a while, hence the heavy reliance by ShoWTimE, hence the lack of any rebuilding of his Colossus or disruptors. Kier, though, has to lick his own wounds. Terran production cycles take a minute or 2 to be constantly churning out the units that you need. So it does take Kier a while to remax. He's just securing up his 5th base, taking the opportunity. He's on 8 barracks. I wouldn't be surprised if Kier at some point throws up another barracks or 2, just to have that remax potential. He's just spending all of his money on Vikings and Ghosts right now, but another barracks or 2 later in this game could be a good addition there. ShoWTimE pretty much remaxed now. Kier almost remaxed. Both players have some supply tied up in production, which is always important to note. Kier pushing down, shuts down any of ShoWTimE's harassment. There's, of course, DTs out for ShoWTimE, as you got that DT blink, so we could very well see Dark Templar messing Kier up a little bit. ShoWTimE, great at using those. It's one of the highest end Protoss tools for late game PvT. Now we take a look here. In goes Kier, landing EMPs on this Protoss force. Nicely done. Psystorm lands by ShoWTimE. Pretty good. Pushes that Terran force away. All the while, this drop now going towards the natural. Not going to have any success if Kier commits on in. Stalkers blink on in. One Medivac almost gets picked off, but it doesn't. Kier saves his own bacon there. Looks like a Disruptor tried to get a connection during that, but now we do see Kier realizing, okay, I failed to kill you. Time to go into some Liberator ship weapons on the way, Fusion Core on the way. Protoss player now moving on out though. ShoWTimE realizing, I've been on the back foot a little bit. Maybe it's time I bully you a bit. I think he'll be tight pressed to really catch Kier. Sort of like trying to tackle a crazed animal. That's quite the analogy there, but it sort of makes sense. You're gonna have a hard time getting your arms around him, and that's what ShoWTimE's gonna be dealing with right now. As Kier can always just kite back endlessly. Looks like ShoWTimE does a great job catching Kier's Medivacs there though. Pushes that portion of the Terran bio away. Kier though getting up more command centers. Terrans can spread, have tons of mules, and that is a great resource for the Terran. Unlimited scans, that kind of stuff. ShoWTimE, yeah, committing to the Liberators here now. Getting some more Medivacs on the way. And this game really has calmed down for the time being. As Kier's going to be building up his Liberator count, we'll see how ShoWTimE's going to deal with it. One thing I'll say is that ShoWTimE has not remade his Colossus, and Kier has gotten himself 12 Vikings. That's a lot of supply. Vikings are what, 2 supply each? Don't quote me on that. I should know that. It's either 2 or 3 supply. I want to say 3. I'm a bad caster. Oh, here comes in some DTs. They find this army. They're going to blink on top of the army, not go for the workers, because this is just such a formidable amount of DTs. All of a sudden, Kier eats a pretty big disruptor shot, and we see ShoWTimE really starting to bully his opponent. Liberators are set up defensively, which is good for Kier. We'll see if he's able to save this base. Yes, he is. Lifts it off. The DTs are in numbers that they don't care if they're revealed by the turret there. This is, by gosh, how many DTs for ShoWTimE? That is 12 Dark Templar. This planetary fortress is going to be the next victim. SCV is not repaired preemptively, so Kier all of a sudden loses a base. Now this is where ShoWTimE can strike while the iron's hot, as the Terran player isn't just focusing on dealing with, say, the Protoss at the front, the disruptors. He's all of a sudden thinking, oh gosh, I got to get my economy going again. I got to deal with these DTs because I know they'll be coming back. There's always more DTs. Kier, though, is just going into mass Liberators while this is going on, but ShoWTimE got himself quite a nice bank. He's got himself a worker lead. He's going to actually push on in. This is a bold push by ShoWTimE, trying to get a good disruptor connection, but there we see it. The DT's coming on in again. This base is heavily guarded by Liberators. Great call there by the Terran player, but ShoWTimE wisely just backs on out, says, okay, you're on 5 bases. That's not too good for 18 minutes into the game. At some point, Kier will have to take another base, and that may be when ShoWTimE strikes. Instead, he's just going to move on in towards the Terran natural with these DTs. If the Terran's not paying attention for half a second, all of a sudden, the army that was meant to deal with the DTs is killed by the DTs. Lots of Liberators coming on in now for the Terran player, though this is so many, it can push away pretty much any Protoss force, but ShoWTimE, beautifully done, pounces on this planetary fortress. All of a sudden, Kier, even though he pulled the SCVs in pretty reasonable time to repair, was not able to save that location. The DTs are being a menace. They've got such value right now. They are out of blink, though, so they actually all go down, but one survivor running around naked. This base here is well defended by the Liberators. ShoWTimE will have a tough time actually cracking Kier's force. 11 Liberators is no joke, even if you've got an Archon, some Psystorm, and 19 Stalkers. Hence we see ShoWTimE really pursuing all options, getting shield upgrades, getting Protoss air weapons. We might see more Stargates go up now. That might not be how he's looking to end the game, but we actually see right now Kier's pushing on out. He's looking to end this game with a big fight, or just to reset the army, maybe buy himself some breathing room. All of a sudden, though, ShoWTimE being bullied around by these Liberators. It's incredibly difficult for Protoss to deal with Liberators in this number. 11 Liberators. They've got +2 weapons. So they do actually, they might two-shot the Stalkers, depending on the armor upgrades. Now let's take a look here. We see ShoWTimE actually just going for the base trade. Kind of predictable by the Protoss, but Zealots DTs are harassing this location down here. We'll see if this army is able to defend this location at least. That'll slow ShoWTimE's annihilation of the Terran bases. ShoWTimE's even getting Tempest out. I'm not sure how useful that's actually going to be for him based off the fact that there's so many Vikings here for Kier. But then again, Kier could easily bleed off units while this is going on. ShoWTimE's pushing on in towards Kier's side of the map. Both players losing bases. The production for ShoWTimE is still going. That Dark Shrine is still alive, which is ever so important in a base trade. Not critical because of the Ghost presence, but yeah, this game is really heating on up. ShoWTimE is losing his bases. Kier, if he can keep his army together, might be able to take the fight that he needs to win this game, as the Protoss forces are being dragged around. The Stalkers in a direct fight. 43 for ShoWTimE, which is just ridiculous. But when you were up against as many Liberators as he was, that's pretty good. Realistically, though, there's only 4 Liberators now, so it's going to be more so about the Disruptor connections by ShoWTimE. He does have the fuel he needs for that, though. 7 Disruptors can really put out a lot of damage. Stalkers taking EMPs, but then there's the Disruptors, which will force the Terran force back. Vikings should be able to engage these Tempests, but not if the army is being pushed back. Kier is in full-on retreat, and he is bleeding off units while this goes on. ShoWTimE with a massive blink forward, gonna force the Terran away. Kier is electing to run, which speaks volumes, but when there's 43 Blink Stalkers chasing you, you're in a lot of trouble. So Kier just trying to buy time, thinking, okay, maybe I can rebuild some of my army, but he's so overstimmed. He's trying to get away. He's going to lose most of these units. He's going to turn with the bio to try and pick off some of the Stalkers. He's lost so much. Here's his reinforcements, though. Can he take a fight? I don't know. Part of his army was just already so red. We see ShoWTimE pursuing now with his just comical amount of Blink Stalkers. He's got Tempests, though. He's got Disruptors. And Kier is just trickling out bio off the back of his poor economy. He's got good upgrades on his bio. He's got EMP to help him out, but it's not going to be enough. GG gets called. ShoWTimE is able to take this one. Beautiful play there by the Protoss player. All in all, yeah, the DT harassment was just too much, and that put Kier on the back foot, and he never recovered. I think Kier this game could have taken it to more of a better position, like up until this point. Before the armies kind of engaged and ShoWTimE turned around, Kier, if he consolidated his force, if he greeted the Protoss army at a better angle, things could have gone good for him, but all of a sudden he was already pretty stimmed trying to kill his bases. Liberators were not set up right now. The Vikings, yeah, Liberators were vulnerable. ShoWTimE just took a fight and did not give Kier any room. Kier stemmed forward here. He needed to be retreating already to greet this Protoss army in a better spot because he had quite an army. Yeah. Anyway, beautiful play there by ShoWTimE. All in all, it's rare you see a Protoss win a game with 41 Stalkers, but that's what he needed, and that's what he used pretty darn well. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for tuning into this game. If you enjoyed this one, hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and subscribe. If you haven't already, join the Discord, which is linked down below. I'll be casting live on Friday for A Freak of World, and that'll be coming up on the channel, so there will be some content down the line. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks so much for tuning on in.